As we're driving through Millarville, Alberta, I am struck by the beauty surrounding me. Today we're going to spend time with Hugo Bonjean and Ilse DeWitt, owners of the award-winning Spirit Hills Winery. I'm wondering what their life is like, and although we've met briefly, I was so intrigued by them I'm left with more questions than I had at our introduction. Questions about their life, homesteading, working together, and the adventure that brought their family from Belgium to Alberta decades ago. Ilse and Hugo, how you doing?
Oh, hey, Laura.
Hey, good to see you, girl. Good to see you. Hi.
Good to see you. Welcome.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here. You have a spectacular property.
Oh, well, thank you. We're a little partial to it ourselves.
How could you not be? I'm seeing horses. I'm seeing a winery.
Okay, I think you need a tour.
I do.
All right.
Yes.
Let's go.
Okay. Hugo, so what's this? What's the smoke giver? I'm gonna follow you.
Well, we're gonna put a box here. Do you want to carry the box?
Okay, is it heavy?
No, it's not very heavy.
Okay.
You good? All right.
Does this have bees in it?
No.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we still have a hive that is completely full of honey,
Okay.
and we need to give it space so that they actually can make more, and it also makes sure that they don't swarm away.
Okay.
And so that's what this box needs to go on top of this one. We were here last week and we were putting boxes up everywhere and we ran out. We didn't, the bees are just producing an enormous amount of honey at this point.
Now, what's the smoke for?
The smoke, I actually put smoke in the beehive and the bees don't think about me anymore, they think about fire. It distracts them.
And how many hives do you have here? About?
We have 200 hives,
Yes.
200 production hives, and then there is about 75 new hives we're just breeding.
And how many bees is that about?
Well, each of these on average probably has about 50,000 bees at this point, so there's probably about 1 million bees in this yard.
Whoa, so these bees flying around my head are nothing in
No.
comparison to the numbers.
No,
And yeah, I see you've got all these slates in there, or slats. What's that?
so these are the honey frames, so we'll actually pull one out so you can actually
Okay.
see a nice, see what's in here.
And what is a honey frame? Wow.
So this is full of dandelion honey. You can tell because it's really nice kind of dark yellow.
Yes.
And
wow.
that is what the dandelion honey is. And so this is still uncapped honey, so they're still finishing, that up. You want to hold it?
Okay, up here?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Don't drop it.
I won't. Oh my gosh. Wow. That's, wow.
And so when they're finished, this one is unfinished. Like this hive still has, has a little bit of room left.
That was kind of heavy.
I'll see.
Is that from the honey?
Well, if you thought that was heavy, this is what's heavy.
Okay.
That's why for beekeeping, certainly for harvest, I always, anybody wants to come help, they need to be strong guys.
Yeah.
Because it's 40 kilos for a box.
Oh.
Just looking to see if in this hive there's any capped honey, but I think there isn't.
So you can tell what kind of honey it is by color and...
Well, yes. Well, in the beginning you can. See this here, what I wanted to show you was they start to cap the honey. They will actually completely, when it's ready, they will seal this entirely. And the moment that is sealed, that honey will last forever.
Wow. They
Honey
cap
never
it
spoils.
themselves?
Yeah, they actually do that. They know when the honey is at 17 to 18% moisture content,
Look at that.
and that's when they cap it.
It's eating honey.
Yeah, it's cleaning up the mess I made.
That's hilarious. So now, I know this is going to sound like a crazy question, but what do you feed bees, or do you have to feed bees?
Well, the bees feed on flowers, right?
And that's it?
Yeah.
So during the winter, what happens to the bees?
The bees hibernate. Well, they don't hibernate, they cluster.
Okay.
So they all hang together. In the center of a beehive, these two bottom boxes are the brood boxes.
Okay.
So that's where they have all their larvae and all their young. And that always this winters. So they winter in this,
Okay.
and it will be full of honey and pollen and full of bees. In the center of these two boxes here, year
Yes.
round, it is 30 degrees Celsius in there. The
Okay.
bees have their own heating in
Uh-huh.
winter, and in summer their own air conditioning. And if actually, let me see if any of them are fanning. See, actually you can see their air conditioning at work. See how they're all sitting, how they're all fanning their wings?
Oh, wow.
It brings this whole flow of air in the hive, and there will be other bees fanning on top, and they create their own air circulation through it.
That's brilliant.
It is fantastic.
They take care of each other.
It's the perfect democracy, a beehive. Nobody runs the show. They all help each other out, and they've been surviving for 2 million years.
We could learn from the bees.
You bet.
What do we have here, guys?
Well, we're going to talk about our wines. So we produce 5 different ones.
Okay.
We are going to start talking about the driest one, and then we go to a little sweeter wine.
Okay.
So the very first one is called Sasquatch.
I love it.
It's a dry red, and it's made, of course, with honey as a fermentable sugar, and then we add black currants and Saskatoons.
So 25% of the natural sugar in this is from your honey.
Well, actually, 25% of that bottle is honey.
Okay.
That doesn't mean there's any sugars left.
Okay.
Because ultimately the process of fermentation is where the sugar, the yeast, transforms that sugar into alcohol and CO2.
Okay. See who knew.
So that's,
Okay.
and we hear that often. People go like, oh, they're honey wines, so they must be sweet. And that's not the case. I mean, you start when you make grape wine, you start with really sweet grape juice,
Right.
and you end up with a dry wine. Well, the same applies with honey wines, right? You start with a really sweet substance, which is a mixture of honey and water, and then you ferment that, and depending upon how far you ferment it, you can ferment it entirely dry, like Sasquatch. You have an entirely dry bottle. Dandy is an off-dry, which we just stop fermentation just before it entirely finishes. And then Wild Rosy is a semi-sweet. And then Yeeha, we actually add a little bit of honey back to it in the end, in order to give it a little bit more of that honey flavor and kind of make it more of that sangria kind of feel.
Okay, and the mead?
Well, technically they're all mead, right?
Okay, now see,
That's-
and I'm a wine drinker, but the whole mead thing kind of confuses me. What makes it mead?
A wine that is actually made, or a fermented beverage that is made from honey as the fermentable sugar, makes it technically mead. And so the whole flavor range for mead is as wide as wine, grape wine, and beer together.
Okay.
And so that's why, often people have like, oh, I had mead before. It's kind of saying like, I had one beer before, I had one wine before, and I've
Okay.
tasted it all.
Okay.
And-
I understand. So it's that wide a variety of tastes and textures.
It's huge. The variety is huge. And so what we specifically make at Spirit Hills is actually, food pairing honey wines. So these are specifically designed to pair with your foods.
Now, can I say wine even though it's mead?
Well, we talk about our wines because, as I said, they're really much more wine-like. And we never talk about mead because people have this perception that mead has to be sweet and it has to, it
Right.
has a lot of honey overtones, and that's not what we make. So, we make honey wines. So the short of it is wines.
I'm looking forward to this. Okay. Cheers.
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 It tastes like wine, but it tastes like very good wine. So it actually should be called wine. It makes sense to
There
me.
you go.
So guys, what are you making for dinner?
Well, we have, we basically make everything from our own food here, everything we grow at the farm. So you know, our shopping basically happens right here. And
You shop here.
absolutely.
You shop here.
I shop right here.
You gonna show me how that's done?
Absolutely, right there.
So your man actually goes shopping.
Yeah, and then he cooks.
Wow.
Well, I wish I could say he cooks every day. That's not quite true, but
No, but that he cooks.
but he can cook. Yeah.
See, there's a lot of women gonna watch this show and get a little envious. Whoa! You got all this from downstairs.
Yeah, and there's way more.
Why don't you tell me what this is?
Well, we got some onion, which I'll use both in the starter and the main course. Then we have some, and you know, we have some dried onion at the beginning of the season, but then once, you know, it doesn't last the whole year. Okay. And so at certain points we actually cut it up and freeze it as well. And then we have some beet greens, which is part of the main course. We have a red beet, which we store in, that's why it's full of wood chips. It's been stored in wood chips. And that's part of the starter. And then some garlic, tomato sauce, which we basically make every fall. We can all of our tomatoes. We grow 250 kilos of tomatoes every year. And then some dried peppers. And then of course ricotta. I mean, you know, you have to use some cheese, and the ricotta will go both in the starter and the main course. I know they're called French fries, but they really should have been called Belgian fries.
Okay.
Because you bake them twice, and that is the key to an absolute superb, you know, some absolute superb fries.
So there's no questions when you sit down to your table where your food came from. Or
Oh,
what's in it.
totally.
That's beautiful.
So the whole idea of local or of eating in season, I think, is often misunderstood in terms of, you know, you eat what's been harvested at that time. Mm-hmm. And if you homestead like we do, and you actually want to live from all the food you grow in an entire year, we have a 3-month growing season.
Right.
That means you eat most of the year from the stuff you can store.
Okay.
And so beets I can store in the cold room, just in some wood shavings. I can store my squashes on the shelf. So this time of the year, it's spring, we eat a lot of beets, we eat a lot of squashes, because those are all the things I can really store for a long time. Mm-hmm. In fall, we'll be eating, you know, our fresh tomatoes still, because we only have 2 months where we eat fresh tomatoes, and then season's over. All right, let's make some barbecue.
So now what kind of meat is this again, Hugo?
It's actually elk New York, so it's the best piece of the elk. It's the back straps, basically. We hunt all the meat on our farm here, so it's always elk, deer, or moose. Okay. And we hunt it all with bow and arrow. And it's all, actually this elk came from right up the hill there. It's
oh, that's incredible.
As local as you can get it. Game will dry out real quick once you turn it. You want to baste that really with a lot of liquid. This case, you know, I've got avocado oil, one of the things that's not local of the farm here. And you want to really soak that in, because it prevents it from drying out.
But when you put the oil on there and it dripped down, I noticed it didn't flame up at all. Is that because of the type of barbecue you have?
Yes, and it has a drip plate on the bottom of it, which actually separates it from the wood pellets that actually are on fire and give the smoke.
Okay.
And so that actually was why.
So for our viewers who may be doing game, don't do that over a gas.
I actually do that over gas barbecue as well, and you really quickly close it and it kills all the flames.
Okay, good to know.
I've done that before.
Now, New York steak is a well-known cut, right?
Yeah.
So is New York elk the same cut from the animal?
Absolutely. It's your 2 back straps, same as your T-bone. The T-bone is actually with the bone on it. The New York is with the bone out of it.
Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Cheers. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
That's That is so good.
It is such a bell.
I didn't expect it to be so tender.
Because the French stole it. And this is actually, it's a real Canadian dish, but in Belgium, everybody would eat French fries and steak.
Really?
Yeah, without the veggies.
Without the veggies.
You came from Belgium, right? Mm-hmm. How long ago?
Almost 19 years ago. 1997.
And why? What brought you to Canada? Did you already have children? You already had children.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this was something that we always wanted to do. I always, even as a kid, I told my parents I felt I was born in the wrong country.
Oh, wow.
I always had that feeling. But then, of course, you know, you grow up, you get married, and then you have kids, and those dreams were kind of on the back burner, but they were always still there. And then especially, you know, the kids were starting to grow up a little bit, and you start to think, okay, what kind of future are these kids going to have in 30 years from now when they have our age here in this overpopulated country, really.
Tell me what it looks like for you when you arrive here.
Well, the universe works in magical ways. For some reason, I always think life tests you. Do you really want to go after your dreams or not? And the moment we actually burned all our bridges in Belgium, in 1 week we sold the house, we got the movers in, we bought one-way plane tickets for the entire family and coach. We, what else did we do? It was a whole bunch of things. Like, we just burned everything. It was like, we were going, period. We're gonna make it work. By the end of that week, the previous boss I worked for, and you know, I was in the hotel industry.
Yes.
And he had been promoted to North America 6 months earlier. He phoned me the end of that week, and he says, Hugo, he said, I need you over here. Can you come and help me and sort out North America and Canada for me?
Are you serious?
Yeah. And so I'm like, yeah. He said, okay, when can you get here? I said, well, as a matter of fact, Ilse and I flying over there next week. We started homesteading.
No, homesteading. I think I know what that is, but what is that?
Well,
because I think Little House on the Prairie, right? And you're all, you know, I love that show, but you're all too cool. So, what's homesteading?
We basically grow all of our own food, and so we have our garden, which provides for seven people year round. And we basically freeze everything, and we preserve it, and we can it. We hunt, bow and arrow, all elk, deer and moose that comes on the table here. We smoke it, we preserve it, we freeze it, all that kind of stuff. And so it basically means living off the land. And in a lot of ways, it's that whole local movement, but I think it's often, I don't think it's always understood right.
Well, this must have been an incredible departure for you, and yet an incredible adventure at the same time. So a complete departure from the life you had grown up in, and dreams come to reality, basically. Wow.
Yeah, and you know, everything that we do in terms of the garden, the hunting, it's part of our life. It's, you know, I don't have to go to a store and buy that meat, so I don't need money for it. So, in a way, there's no, the whole idea of this is work and this is play, kind of all disappears. Family security, and community security. And in that, you become an economic unit that is much stronger than an individual ever is.
Yes.
And I think that's something we've lost in society we have today. It's that whole family unit, and
yeah,
that's where we are today.
Conversation's good, the spirit around here is good, and the food is very good.
And look at where we are.
Ilse, Hugo, thank you so much.
That was great.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Enjoyed
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you. You know what? This is our honor, and what a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Yes, I hope
This
to
is
see you
good.
soon.
All right, take care.
Thanks.
I left my visit with Hugo and Ilse somehow changed, in awe of these true pioneers and partners in every sense of that word. They've championed what's possible when family is first and passions are pursued together. That humbled me and inspired me. Their belief in each other, their love for their family and this province warmed me and moved me. Their life gave me courage to continue pursuing my dreams, my passions, and the life I want to live. I feel proud to have met them, to now call them friends, and am prouder still that they call Alberta home.
Chinook Driving Academy teaches new drivers to drive defensively and safely. This includes proper visual habits, time and space management, and collision avoidance techniques. Serving Calgary and area since 1958.
Clothes Up and Personal is a ladies' consignment boutique that specializes in clothing sizes of 12 and over. We also carry shoes, purses, and accessories in all sizes, with over 1,000 items arriving weekly.
Jameswood Homes will work with clients taking personal design ideas from paper into the real world. Jameswood Homes for new construction and renovations.
Serena Salon and Spa in Beddington Town Centre, specializing in both men's and women's hair and styling services. Serving Calgarians since 2002. Open 7 days a week.